Technology is no doubt having a significant impact on several industries and how professionals work. The legal profession is no exception. The advancement of technology has helped improve lawyers' efficiency, enabling them to take on more work than previously possible. Now, a great deal of work are outsourced partly to technology and certain practices modernized to make tasks easier. Virtual hearings, digital case management, online research databases, digital contracts and computer simulations, among others, are some of the technological solutions transforming the legal industry and increasing productivity. Beverly Agbakogba Onyejianya, Associate Partner Olise Agbakogba Legal, talks to us about this legal incorporation and why startups need to take legal matters seriously.
Beverly, glad to have you on the show today.
I'm happy to be here with you, Fred.
A lot is happening in the legal profession today, and I'd like to get your opinion on how technology has affected the legal profession.
Okay, great question. As we all know, we're living in a digital world right now. Every 2 minutes, millions and millions of data is bounding and passing through the internet, metaverse, you name it. And the legal profession has not been spared from that influence. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we're finally breaking those traditional, conventional boundaries that have held us back too much in the legal profession, that have held us back from interacting with each other, that have held us back from reaching the masses, the public. Previously, when you think about getting a lawyer, it tends to be what rich people do. It tends to be what conglomerates do, IOCs, etc., etc. But right now, thanks to the internet, legal tech, we're finding more and more platforms are very focused on proliferation and building awareness. Know your rights. Many people don't know their rights. We take basic things like knowing the Constitution for granted. Some legal platforms have dedicated their cause to informing and enlightening the public. Then let's talk about remote hearings. Let's talk about access to justice. Prior to COVID, it was unheard of. Why on earth would you have conduct a remote hearing? But then think about the expenses incurred. Let's say the jurisdiction of that matter. Let's even look at arbitration, for instance, the issues that we've had with arbitration in Nigeria.
So the question is the Nigeria legal system adopting or accepting this digital disruption enough?
I think naturally there's always a bit of a hesitation when it comes to change. Let's face it, we are creatures of habit, and the legal profession is not exempt. But I think even my learned senior colleagues, the learned judges, the honorable judges, they are all beginning to see that there is some merit, for instance, as I gave you previously, in having remote hearings. Unfortunately, this is not widespread across the country evenly. There's some parts of the country we all know are a little bit more advanced. For instance, take Lagos State, where we have practice directions on remote hearings. So legal tech it's going to be a slow burn. The adoption will take place gradually, but I do believe we will get to a point where there will be mass adoption. Even thinking about how we accepted e-signatures. For a long time, e-signatures we didn't trust them so much. But then now we have the CAMA, Company Allied Matters Act of 2020, which has now recognized e-signatures. It also recognizes virtual board meetings. So the change is coming. What we need now is further awareness to educate everyone about these changes. So sometimes I feel like there's a two-step process to this. There's the implementation of the much needed policies, laws, but there's also that much needed post-implementation awareness drive. That tends to take some time, it tends to take some time. Some people in Nigeria may not even know that they can use an e-signature to sign contracts, for instance. So your show, thank you so much, is part of that mass movement that's needed to educate and enlighten the general public.
No, but speaking of the fact that the digital adoption might be slow, is there anything that startups who use platforms like Docusign and the rest have to be worried about when it comes to agreements in Nigeria?
I would say, again, this speaks to internal processes and procedures. Businesses, startups not excluded, have to have policies on everything. It might sound a bit much. Oh, I'm just a small business. What do I need policies?
It actually sounds much.
It does, but the truth is, you're better safe than sorry. It's better to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So there have to be policies on who signs what. There have to be policies on what happens when there's a misappropriation of, say, an e-signature. There has to be steps taken to prevent and guard against these sort of things. Fraud, unfortunately, is a feature of the business world that's not going to go away anytime soon. Which is why, as a business, you're expected to have risk management processes, procedures, etc. So, the use of e-signatures, I don't think we should be wary to the point where we don't use these e-signatures. Rather, we should just put steps in place to guide how those e-signatures are used. Typically, when you have board resolutions, multiple people approve. So I think there should be some kind of policy around use of e-signatures. There has to be some kind of approval. You don't just use an e-signature of your CEO, of your COO, etc. You don't do that. It's not done. So again, that speaks to a compliance issue, which I know we're not really discussing today, but it's just good to be aware of. Think about it. People were forging signatures in real life with biros, remember? So that issue doesn't necessarily go away. But what do? You take steps to minimize and mitigate against such acts, because fraud is always going to be with us. We just have to minimize its occurrence.
So here comes the interesting one, Beverly. I'd like to get your opinion about the fact that the legal profession is regarded as one of those that AI would disrupt in very massive ways. What are your thoughts?
Yes, there's that fear. Even just the other day, my legal network and I were talking about, legal innovations and how lawyers should stop being resistant to embracing change. AI is not going to take away the role of a lawyer anytime soon. I think we need to look at it more as a tool to help us do our work better, to help us save time. AI, artificial intelligence, can be used, for instance, when preparing cases, when preparing briefs. If you think about the amount of man hours needed just to prepare, processes, briefs, get your defense right, you can use AI to cut your time from maybe, say, 20 hours of research to 2 hours. It's meant to help improve our work. It's meant to improve productivity. So for me, I say to lawyers that are still hesitant or that are still a bit unsure to look at AI as a tool that will increase productivity. And when you increase productivity, cha-ching, you potentially make more money. Because one thing I know that clients tend not to like is, oh, my lawyer is too slow. They don't get things out fast enough. The profession is not as dynamic as, say, some other types of professions. So that's one way we as lawyers can change the face of the profession. I think we don't usually see the legal profession as a business sector. Have you noticed? No one ever thinks of lawyers as business people, but we are business people. I see myself as a legal businesswoman, okay? Solving problems is my business. That's how I make my money. So why not embrace a tool that can help you do that faster? So that's the way I kind of look at it. And that applies to case management, that applies to contract management. Imagine, like, say, an IOC. Imagine how many contracts they sign in a year. Hundreds, thousands. After a while, human error can come in. And it's not unheard of, somebody accidentally forgets to renew a contract. and that has repercussions, that has consequences. So you have all these different tools that can prompt you, remind you, oh, it's time to renew that contract. Oh, there's a clause in that contract that has an issue. So it's just a risk management tool, personally, the way I see it.
Wow. That's where we're going to end the show, Belly. You know what? I smiled because I just wish that more lawyers can follow this route. Maybe that will help create the partnership and make it better. But, let's see how it goes.
There's hope. There's always
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show. All the best. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yeah.